All right, hello everyone. We are going to get started here in just a few minutes. Just waiting for more people to join the meeting, but we appreciate you guys jumping on time. While we wait, we'll provide some quick intros as well to who will be speaking during the webinar. So I'm Dallin Kaufman. I'm the VP of Business Development at Alta Labs.
I'm Jeff Hansen, CTO of Alta Labs. I've been doing wireless technologies for over 20 years now. And then Michael, we want to introduce Michael from Purple today also.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah. So the lone representative from our Purple team, a small but mighty team. So yeah, I'm our enterprise account executive here at Purple for our North America territory. That's multi-vertical here for me. So it's a fairly chunky territory, but kind of gives me some up close and personal details and intimate experience with all sorts of different customers across those verticals. And I'm based down here in Tampa, Florida.
All right, I think we'll go ahead and officially get started at this point. We appreciate you all taking so much time out of your busy schedules to join us today to learn more about Alta Labs and about Purple. We have individuals joining from all over the world at this point, and from a number of different time zones. So again, appreciate you guys sacrificing some time to be here. I'm going to give just a quick overview of the agenda for today and what to expect from the webinar. As I mentioned previously before, my name is Dallin Kaufman. I'm the VP of Business Development at Alta Labs. I will be giving a quick overview of who Alta Labs is and also an overview of our current product portfolio. And then we'll turn the time over to Jeff Hansen, our CTO, and he'll dive into some more specific features and also the integration with Purple. And then we'll turn the time over to Michael from Purple as well to talk about their company and the partnership that we have with them as well. And then lastly, I know I mentioned this before, but if you have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to post them in the chat. We have some individuals that will help address questions there within the chat. But then we'll also make some time probably midway through the presentation and then at the end as well to address any questions that come in. So who Alta Labs is, we are a new brand in the networking space. We just got started about 2 years ago was when we started Alta Labs. But we launched the products into the market just about a year ago. So we're the new kid on the block. But the good thing and the good news about Alta is we bring a lot of experience to this space. So while we are new, we have a very, very strong experienced team, with decades of experience in the networking and IT space overall. Just to give you an idea, we have members of our team that have come from Cisco to Ubiquiti to pfSense. And then we have a variety of experiences in the channel as well, from manufacturing, obviously, to the distribution side, and also from the installation side as well. A lot of our team members have spent time there in each of those categories and each of those areas. Most notably, I just want to talk about the installation space specifically. Even down to our CEO, Chase Harrison, he actually owned his own installation company for a period of time. And also Sound Vision Technologies, which is the parent company behind Alta Labs, or SVT for short. SVT has been around for 25 years. And they were actually also started by a group of installers themselves. 25 years ago, there was a group of installers that were frustrated with dealing with manufacturers that didn't really understand what it was like to be an installer. And so they started their own manufacturing company, primarily in the Pro AV space for the last 25 years. But that's at our core, our DNA is just being very installer centric, channel friendly, and everything that we do. The other thing I also just would mention, right? One of the reasons why we decided to jump into this space is if you look at this market, for whatever reason, there's not a lot of new market entries in the networking space. The vendors that have been around for decades, and we felt like there was a need for some disruption, from some fresh ways of thinking about things, some innovation and disruption. And we felt like we were really well positioned to provide that from our side. So as far as why Alta Labs, right? I'm not going to dive into each of these individually, but in short, I would say we're trying to provide the best combination of all of these things, right? So providing the most reliable, most stable, highest performing products on the market at a really affordable price point, right? That's accessible to everyone, while at the same time making sure that we can offer robust support. We like to say support from real people, right? We're really, really accessible as a brand, down to a phone number being listed on our website, right? Anyone can call in and get free phone support from our tech team. So whether you need help with system design, right, or in the middle of a project and are running into a technical issue, right, we're there at any point for you guys. And so all of this, right, comes back to, as I mentioned before, being really channel friendly, installer centric, and our approach as a brand. We know what it's like to be out there in the field installing products, and so we take that into everything that we do. I'm going to give just a quick overview at this point. I want to save most of the time for Jeff and for Mike, but I want to just give a quick overview of our current portfolio for any of you that are new to Alta Labs at this point. So we have 2 access points, both Wi-Fi 6 access points. Our AP6 is a 2x2 access point on both bands. Our AP6 Pro is 2x2 on the 2.4 gigahertz band, and then 4x4 on the 5 gigahertz band. The big differences between the AP6 and the AP6 Pro is that 4x4 versus 2x2. And then also the AP6 Pro is IP54 rated, so it can be used in some outdoor environments, underneath an overhang, somewhat protected from the elements. And then also the big differentiator between the Pro and the our standard AP6 is the fact that the Pro version does support something called 4K QAM, which is a Wi-Fi 7 feature. So we like to call it Wi-Fi 6 with Wi-Fi 7 benefits. That 4K QAM feature allows for much higher wireless throughput capabilities. Next, we have our AP6 Pro Outdoor. This is actually just launching into the market. The specs are very, very similar to our AP6 Pro in that it's a 4x4 access point on the 5 gigahertz band and 2x2 on the 2.4. It also, again, supports that 4K QAM feature that I mentioned before, that Wi-Fi 7 feature. It's an omnidirectional outdoor access point. And then what's important to note, right, is it's IP68 rated, so it can endure any outdoor environment, anything that you can throw at it. So I'm going to quickly just run through our switches. So we have an 8-port switch, really robust piece of hardware, 60 watts PoE budget. 4 of the ports are PoE plus. And then next we've got our 16-port switch. That has 8 of the ports are PoE plus enabled, and the PoE budget is 120 watts. And then it does have 2 SFP ports on it. And then lastly, we have our 24-port switch, and 16 of those 24 ports are PoE plus enabled, and the PoE budget is 240 watts on that one. And then there's 2 SFP plus ports on that one, so it has 10 gigabit capabilities.
Can I just point out one really cool feature about these switches? Yeah. All 3 of them have a Bluetooth chip inside them, which makes it extremely easy. You don't even have to be on the same network necessarily to initially set it up. So if this is your first device going into a new network, you just throw on the switch, connect to it by Bluetooth, and add it to a site. It's really slick.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for adding that, Jeff. Quickly, how our cloud management system works, or our management system works, right, is we have a few different options. With our cloud management system, right, you have both a mobile app option as well as a desktop version of our controller. Anyone can access it, right? You just set up an account at manage.alta.inc. There's no licensing fees, right? So you purchase the products and you have access to our free cloud controller. For those that would prefer a local controller option, we have 2 options, a self-hosted version, and then also this local hardware version that we're just in the process of launching into the market right now. and it'll support up to 1,000 devices. So a really robust piece of hardware that we're excited to get out into the market. With that, Jeff, unless there's anything else you have to add to the portfolio, I'll let you jump in with your slides.
Sounds good. Thank you, Don. Yeah, so as stated before, I'm Jeff Hansen, CTO of Alta Labs. Really saw a lot of issues with some of the products, things that were happening in the market, and so we decided to help start Alta Labs 2.5 years ago, and it's been an awesome experience so far. It's okay. So we're going to talk about specifically using Alta Labs APs with Purple. So one thing that's really neat about Alta Labs APs, and one thing that we saw that was a problem out in the market, is that a lot of the features that are required for PCI compliance or network segregation, you kind of have to have like a balance between which router you're using, even switches, and then which APs you're using. And so one thing that's cool about our APs is, and I'll go into the technical nitty-gritty details in just a second here, but you don't even have to have separate VLANs to provide segregation, that network segregation that's required for PCI compliance when you do your scans, especially if you have like mobile terminals and you're billing on those. You just make sure that they're on either a guest or an internet-only network type, and you're really done. Like that's it. It's really that simple. There's nothing to configure in your router, as long as it's obviously providing normal internet that any router would do. So I mean that obviously is really cool from a maintenance standpoint and a usability. Setting up a new wireless network that you can handle payments on. And then the other thing that's really cool is it removes the need to have another router. A lot of places, you'll get your router from your ISP and then you throw on another router in front of that, and all of a sudden you have 2 points of failure now. And so removing the need to have a special router specifically so you can do that network segregation just removes that one more potential pain point. So yeah, we like to call it router independence. So with our access points, you can get consistent guest Wi-Fi, and all of these features are built directly into the access points themselves. So there's nothing that you need, no special router, no special configuration in your router that you have to configure in order to use this. So first off, you get guest Wi-Fi, and I'll talk about the details on our next slides, but it's really extremely easy to enable scalable, secure guest Wi-Fi with our access points. You just go into the configuration of your SSID, you set the network type to guest or internet only or IoT, and that's it. You all of a sudden have guest Wi-Fi, and that means that the clients can access the internet, but they can't necessarily talk to each other. And so it provides that isolation between your guests. With most network vendors out there, it's a 2-step process or 3. There's a lot of different steps that you have to take in order to ensure that, within a specific access point, you have one setting to isolate clients there, and then you have other settings to protect and enforce isolation between clients between different access points. And it gets confusing, and we just wanted to solve that by having one simple step for providing guest Wi-Fi. So you also get high density scalable Wi-Fi with our network types, and I'll talk about how that's provided, but this is something that you don't have to use a special switch or any special filtering rules in your switches or your router to have as well. Another thing that's really cool about our access points is they actually have a DPI engine built into every single one of them. And so this allows you to provide filtering for like Facebook, TikTok, social media. We recently added a new adult content filter. So you just simply check that box in the user management platform, manage.alta.inc, or your local controller. And all of a sudden that stuff becomes inaccessible. You can also bypass that filter if you use certain passwords, or you can add special schedules and things like that. So And this is all built into every single Alta Labs access point. We also have host name filtering, so nothing, no special rules that you have to add to your router or anything like that. This is done right on the APs themselves. We also have Wi-Fi scheduling built into our access point. So one really cool feature about the scheduling is you can set up a schedule so it turns off, but it doesn't stop beaconing. So say, for example, you have employees and they want to be able to connect after hours. It'll shut off the Wi-Fi, but they still have the ability to request access after hours. And then it'll send you a notification. You say, sure, you can get on for another hour. And that as well is super easy to use and built into all of our access points. And then you get real-time monitoring as well, which helps with diagnostics, seeing if there's any problems with your network. So I want to talk a little bit about the kind of the background of how we're able to provide all of these features without depending on any routers. It's all part of AltaPass, which is our patented scalable Wi-Fi solution. So this is not your grandpa's MPSK. Obviously, it's very easy to set up, a different VLAN per PSK and different SSID and things like that. It's very simple and straightforward. You don't have to set up a VLAN anywhere else. You just give the SSID or the passphrase a number, right? It's super simple to set up. And then we also have per password and SSID policies. So if you use a specific password, and this is, we'll go into some details of why this specifically is optimized for guest portals such as Purple, the guest portal that Purple provides. You can actually use and set up a special password or SSID or things like that so that you can bypass those guest portals for employees or anyone else that you don't want to have to enter or log into those captive portals. You can also bypass the filtering based on the password. You can also bypass, so each of our APs also has like a local hotspot. So obviously you can redirect to an external hotspot in the case of Purple. Obviously that's what you're going to do in this case, but we also have a local hotspot that runs on the APs themselves, and you can bypass that based on the password that you use. So now I'm going to talk about all the different network types, and this is where it really becomes the crux of why this is so important and critical for working with Purple. So it really gives you scalable, easy to use guest Wi-Fi. I'm going to talk about some of the details of how these network types work. So the first network type is called standard, and this is the default network type. There's no filtering at all. Basically, all devices can talk to each other. This is just your traditional access point, right? So nothing special there. Where it starts to get interesting is with all of our non-standard network types. So the first one is large network type. And this is great for enterprises that have thousands of wireless clients on a network, but you still want to be able to communicate between all of the clients. So obviously we provide proxy ARP, that's pretty standard, but we also do proxy MDNS. So if there are other clients, and that allows us to remove one of the biggest problems that hinders, Wi-Fi throughput and just Wi-Fi in general is that broadcast traffic, multicast traffic. So that is all filtered with our large network type feature. And this is the basis for the rest of the network types that I'll go over right now. So we have the internet-only network type. Each access point will detect, what the router is, the IP address and the MAC address. The large network type provides, but it also filters traffic so that they can only talk with the router. So this is how you achieve that, router independent PCI compliance. You get that network segregation for free simply by using this internet-only network type. So this is perfect for guests. They can't talk to any other devices except for, gaining access to the internet. And then we have what's called our guest network type. It's very similar to the internet-only type, but it also allows you to connect to IoT devices. So say you have a printer or a Chromecast or an Apple TV or something like that you want your guests or your employees or whatever to be able to access. So they would log in with like a guest network type, PSK, and then they are now allowed to access those printers and Chromecasts and things like that. So it does provide that one-way channel And then I'll get into the last type, which is IoT network type. So you have your mobile devices, your desktops, your laptops, stuff like that, that would be on the guest network type. Those would be connecting to the IoT devices. So you have that pairing there, right? So your laptops and iPhones and stuff like that would be on the guest, and then your printers and Chromecasts and things like that would be on the IoT PSK. So that provides that communication there. So we wanted to have a little bit of a break for questions real quick, just to catch up, and then we'll hand the time over to Michael for the rest of the presentation.
Jeff, I can, I mean, there was a couple questions I think that popped up in the chat as well. We can maybe just address in case some didn't see the chat. There was a question about with our switches, why we chose to only have half the ports essentially, right? Be PoE plus. I know on the 24 port, right? It's 16 of the 24 ports. But do you mind? I know that was addressed in the chat, but maybe you could also talk about that a little bit as well as maybe our future plans, right, with a 48 port switch.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in line with it's really all about being able to provide the most cost-effective solution, as we talked about at the beginning of the presentation. You know, lighting up all the ports is convenient, but you also have to have that added budget, PoE budget, which makes a bigger power supply. And we felt like this was a good balance for cost effectiveness as well as power budget. So that's, the main reason why we have only lit up about half of the ports on all of our switches so far. We do want to remedy that with our 48 port. Obviously, the cost will go up because it's a 48 port switch, but that's what we'd like to do, is have PoE available on every single port. And hopefully we can get to that beginning of next year sometime.
Well, yeah, why don't we turn the time back over to Michael, and then we'll save some more time for questions at the end as well.
All right, sounds like a plan there, Don. I appreciate the intro and the handoff here. And yeah, just for those who weren't able to catch, my name is Mike Bannum, our enterprise account executive for Purple's North America territory. I have counterparts around the world as we do have a global footprint, as you can probably notice from some of the logos that you see on the screen here. And with a title like that, as you can probably imagine, I'm going to be a little bit more focused on sort of the business application, sort of what those other business stakeholders can really get excited about doing through Purple, layered on top of Alta Labs and the amazing technology that you, Dallin, and Jeff were just able to walk through. The only thing I just caution there is I don't have my Jeff Hansen with me. I don't have that true technical expertise, as we did have sort of a last minute personal emergency that has pulled him away. So I will do my best, and will any areas where I run into the technical boundaries of my expertise and knowledge, I'll be sure to let you know and make sure that we get some knowledge base over to you. So just a bit of a PSA there. So for us, and really the way that we see ourselves, I think the lead in from Alta Labs was perfect, right? So what we do really, really effectively here at Purple is, yes, there's a guest portal / captive portal element to what we do, but what we really want to is push that to its very boundary, right? So what we do is we deploy very seamlessly and remotely, leveraging a cloud-based software solution. And we do so with an already built integration into Alta Labs, Wi-Fi infrastructure. So that's one of the reasons right out of the gate why this is such a great and meaningful partnership. And really, to our what we see here is really is an unlocking of a lot of the amazing capabilities that Alta Labs, Wi-Fi infrastructure and networking hardware can do, right? What we want to do is add on a layer that really makes this directly relevant to the end user. And that's really where our focus is. And you see with not just these logos here, but plenty of others, and multi-vertical nature here, is that we really want to allow Wi-Fi to be unlocked and really become a true channel. Be a channel to engage guests, fans, visitors in the physical space, really in a way that's analogous to what many marketers and other business professionals expect in the digital realm, right? You've got a website, you've got e-commerce, you're expecting analytics and data to come back from those visits and those interactions with customers or potential customers. And yet when they walk into your physical space, be it an arena, a retail location, or a large public venue, it's really a bit of a dead zone there in terms of who walked in the door, why did they, and what's going to bring them back. hopefully wanting to spend more money with you, right? That's really what our key focus is on here at Purple. And we'll talk a little bit about how we unlock that value and really open up this channel. The other thing I'll mention here, you see on the page is, basically if you've got Alta Labs hardware and you want to engage with people in your physical space, there's a conversation for us to have. That has now since extended beyond just that guest Wi-Fi marketing analytics into the real-time location services space. So we'll try to save a few minutes maybe to just briefly touch on that, but otherwise we'll focus here primarily on our guest Wi-Fi and captive portal offering. And so just to kind of give you a little bit of a sense of the possible here, so kind of an art of the possible slide as we like to call it. Now, I always caution, no one fan, customer, or guest is going to see all of these splash pages when they attempt to authenticate onto your Wi-Fi. I always want to make that clear because people start getting very nervous. But as I said, we really see this as sort of that art of the possible. We want to go beyond just sort of a captive portal or guest portal in a cloud of dust and say, this experience, when you engage with the Wi-Fi at a physical venue, should get smarter over repeat uses of the Wi-Fi, and that should be reflected in the experience that the end user has during those visits, right? So, of course, we want to have a very highly configurable, what we call offline splash page, or that first authentication page when you're still in that walled garden and you're not actually authenticated to join the network. So have it be brand specific, make it be really simple to design and build within Purple's tools and our back-end system. Allow multiple different ways to authenticate. So social media, which some people will feel a little bit more comfortable with an interface they log into on a regular basis. We don't only want to provide that capability, but we also know there's some rich data that we can pull through into a Wi-Fi CRM record that can then be pushed to your own databases, right? Something I can touch on here in a second. That's really where it starts. From there, on a second, third, fourth visit, presumably, it should go well beyond just asking me again for a name and an email, right? It should say, hey, Mike, welcome back. Since your last visit here to, Bainham Arena, we've added a new, Corona tent up on your section, right? Relevant engagement, relevant education to me, not just as a repeat visitor, but who I am, what I'm interested in, and where I'm likely to spend money, right? So 6th and 7th visits should also reflect that, right? We can seamlessly log you in, so you're skipping and circumventing the offline splash page on that connect and just have this be very smooth. Or we can choose to disrupt that experience based on that auto login feature to the Wi-Fi that we enable. We call that seamless login, and you can just seamlessly get online as if we never existed, or we can choose in a very selective and automated way to say, every 4th visit for somebody over a certain age or a certain gender or visit history or even personal preferences that we've captured in the past, let's engage them in this specific way. And so that could look like loyalty engagement, driving what they call to action, or purely just education, but also educating and cross-selling to other brands, other entities, other venues entirely that might be under the purview of one of our customers or one of yours. And then finally, kind of my hobby horse is survey feedback. I think that the big challenge here is capturing high quality at scale. And we can do that nice and easily because we're interacting where everybody's time and attention is often spent, right, on their phone. And this can be time to be after, it could be during, live at the event. There's some configurability with that as well. So really the two pieces to this journey, we kind of saw what some of the outcomes can be, but if we kind of take a step back, there's two elements to what Purple kind of unlocks through Alta Labs' fantastic cutting edge technology. And it really is that data capture piece that should be progressive. It shouldn't be, here's a bunch of homework for you to do, when you're bringing the family to, out for an outing or to a game or to, some shopping, whatever it may be. This shouldn't be arduous. So we always want to balance that customer and user experience. But as we're capturing data, that should then go where marketing and business professionals can be dangerous with it. So existing CRMs, data warehousing, as Jeff mentioned, we work very closely with Alta Labs, but we also have built-in APIs to send this data where it needs to live. So those teams and business leaders can be dangerous with it, as I like to say. Or you can turn right around and reflect that in the Wi-Fi journey itself, right? So we just saw some of the ways that you can take what you've captured progressively and turn around and just engage fans, customers, and guests in a way that should look and feel like your brand, right? Is actually going to be influencing pre-purchase and ultimately driving revenue, because that's our big why, right? We want to be impacting fan, guest, and customer experience, but we also want to make sure that there's a very clear ROI to what we do as we think about unlocking what Alta Labs can offer you. So this is that key piece, capturing data, but making it actionable, either directly through us or sending it to existing channels where, again, as I say, it can be dangerous. And kind of put a little bit more color on this, right? There's sort of, acting on insights for the sake of it. There's just sort of data for data's sake, but we always want to be hyper-focused on business outcomes, right? We have a ton of customers that are very technically focused, and that's fantastic. And we're so grateful that we can offer them something that's truly unique in the market in terms of highly configurable captive portals, very easy to manage, standardized, single pane of glass, 360-degree view of the customer, whatever you want to call it, but give you that standardized view across a very hybrid environment, thrown across potentially thousands of venues and tens and hundreds of thousands of APs across your portfolio. We do that great. We're fantastic at it. You saw some of the large logos like Walmart, JP Morgan Chase, where we do just that. But we also want to always have an eye towards, what's the ultimate why from a revenue perspective. So when you can capture the data that we just talked about and you can make those relevant engagements, well, when they're tailored, they're better, right? It's simple as that. Any marketer, day one can tell you, if I know more about a potential customer that'll allow me to tailor my engagement, I'm going to be much more successful and ultimately what I want to drive them to do, right? So whether it's conversion to loyalty, conversion to purchase, conversion just to greater education and awareness, something as simple as a marketing opt-in, which can be seen as kind of a gold mine for a lot of our marketing stakeholders. We can enable all that based on the data that we know, whether you choose to interact via Wi-Fi as this new channel you've unlocked, or through your existing channels like e-commerce, social media, your existing email infrastructure, you name it, right? But just basically do everything that you do, but do it smarter. That's ultimately what we offer through this physical space intelligence. And just to kind of increase that focus, right? It's one thing to kind of get specific in the abstract, but what can this actually look like specifically? So we wanted to showcase one of our customers. I don't think they were actually shown on that previous logo page, but just to kind of make this real in a different sense, Michael Kors is one of the many different retail customers that we work with. Now, globally, as I mentioned, we're multi-vertical, so you can see really different shades of this, even in different verticals like sports and entertainment, large public venues. But really, again, at the heart of what we wanted to do was be able to reach out and not just be able to get people online in a smooth, brand consistent way. I mean, that's table stakes. We got to be able to do that. But what was really key here, and what you see here with some of the data metrics that we were able to capture, was increasing the sort of omni-channel engagement that Michael Kors, their IT and marketing teams wanted to achieve. Right. So we know people are shopping with us online. We know people are walking into our stores. We really don't know a lot about how those two different worlds kind of intermix. Right. And this is really where Wi-Fi, again, as this channel, not just as sort of, the APs, the physical hardware that's there, can be so particularly effective, is uncovering who those people are and really marrying up those offline and online worlds. So knowing who's demonstrated repeat behavior, who's able to now be more available to opting into marketing so that we can make sure that we're reaching at the right time with the right messaging to capture that opt-in, but then also making sure that rich demographic and behavioral data, like, I've shopped online, a day later, I came to 2 different Michael Kors locations. That's really useful qualitative data that's going to inform how marketing should engage for things like conversion to purchase, right? Whether that be in store or online, right? So you could see us online, then you come in store to purchase, or you could see us in store and then ultimately purchase online. But if you don't know about both of those journeys, it's really hard to be effective in that tailoring. And that's exactly what we offer Michael Kors and many of our other customers, right? So what we see is if you know things about demographic data, like something as simple as a birthday campaign or a birthday date to enable a birthday campaign, you're able to drive higher conversion rates. And what we do, as you see here at the bottom, this is for just the EMEA sector in Europe for Michael Kors locations there. We've since expanded to North America as well. But just a focused campaign like that, being able to track what could this look like from a revenue and ROI perspective from Purple. So you can see it just over 200K for that particular campaign, and the leads were generated. It's just one of the key case studies for how you can really make this sort of real for some of your customers as well. And as we got a little bit narrower in our focus specifically within that Wi-Fi world, because that is really what we're here to talk about. There's amazing things, not just with the ease of how we configure, deploy, and then manage and leveraging what we do with Alta Labs. But we take a step back from just that guest portal and that captive state where we can engage customers and guests. There's other things that we can unlock as part of this channel as well. So there's other products that we've brought to market that we're very excited about, all ultimately leveraging the foundation of Wi-Fi. Is one, what we call Secure Pass. So you can almost see this as sort of analogous to Passpoint technology, but very unique to the app that you've built or designed, right? Or in this case, that the customer's built. So allowing, let's say in this case, Michael Kors, if you're to go download their app, one thing that increases the utility of that app is the ability to very simply, in your settings, toggle on, I want to auto log into Wi-Fi. In other words, I'm going to circumvent that captive portal piece that we just talked about. auto log into your Wi-Fi whenever I'm close to an access point at any Michael Kors location anywhere, right? So that's a utility of having the app, which is great, kind of helps them cut down on app fatigue. But it also pulls in Wi-Fi data and analytics to an app world that up to now has really just been dependent on, did you enable location services? Increasingly, people aren't doing that. So increasingly, you're left in the dark from a proximity marketing and behavioral standpoint on when should I send push notifications? When is the most timely, time to send an email to drive conversion, right? When you can pull in that Wi-Fi picture that's going to recognize a familiar device that goes to log onto the Wi-Fi access point automatically, well, then that's a whole nother piece of the picture in that physical space, which is going to improve how the business leaders operate. So SecurePass is something we're really excited about, which kind of bridges the two worlds of Wi-Fi engagement and digital app engagement of the customer base. We enable all this through our managed service. So we always want to make sure we've got really in-depth support resources, which I'll link out to our support library that can be queried. You can see video tutorials on even how to deploy us in a self-service mode. So we always want to make this very simple. But then we realize that a lot of teams are pretty, they're at their bandwidths, longest extent, right? And they're looking for helping hands. So at a significantly lower cost than a full-time employee, we offer ways to not just manage things like splash pages and building them, but deploying to additional venues, managing AP and hardware, managing different access journeys to the Wi-Fi, and running things like campaigns and driving reports, right? So we can serve all the value that we just talked about can all be managed by us at a significant discount of training an entire employee to do it, with a dramatic reduction on manual work and admin that just kind of serves up the benefits. Here's what we did, how effective it was, and why this should be a win for those business stakeholders internally. So something that we're always excited about. And then I mentioned it earlier as kind of an extension of what we've done in the physical space, leveraging Wi-Fi infrastructure, is real-time location services. We have two different versions of this for that indoor and outdoor navigation. Some refer to this as kind of like the Google Maps for indoor spaces, where of course GPS does not work. Well, we've really taken that next step almost 10 years ago and really getting into this space as well, and have become a market leader in the healthcare space and are now growing into other verticals where it's really useful to not just get from your door to the most efficient parking that's closest to the appropriate entrance to where your seats are going to be, or your clinician or your appointment might be, but really, how can I query the entire space basically? If I want vegetarian food, I should just be able to type in VE in a search bar once I'm there, and it should show me all the things that are relevant to what I want, right? So that's really what we've built with our RTLS offering. It's very end-user, customer-centric, and focus on how do we give people what they want in an end-to-end way and drive revenue while we do it. So that's just kind of the high level and some of the additional products that we bring to market, all able to leverage what we do here with Alta Labs. All of this is secure, stable, right? This is, again, we talked about table stakes earlier, as a processor of data, and this is something I'm sure Alta Labs and the team are no stranger to. It's incredibly important that you're responsible as you do that. So even though you don't own it, there's still a key responsibility there. Our home base, as I mentioned, we're a global team, is actually in the United Kingdom, and has been so for some time, so previous to Brexit even. So GDPR is something that we've grown up in, right? So kind of the gold standard for end user privacy and compliance is something that is kind of a basic standard for us. But we also make sure we meet any of the local and provincial standards in North America, as well as some states are now exploring various different ways to enact similar things. So that's, again, just the basics of what we have to keep up in, as this being the business that we eat, sleep, and breathe. We're also audited regularly and maintain several different ISO certifications. Again, just making sure that although we don't own the data, we're processing it responsibly. We're making sure that that we're very cyber safe as a company, and all of the folks who might be involved in assisting customers and partners as well. If we kind of close with what we think sort of our ICP or our ideal customer profile looks like, there's a lot of different sort of variables here that we're looking at. But if we really boil this down, it will be no surprise to anybody, right? So kind of the hallmark of an ideal customer, ultimately that would want to purchase Purple or work through a partner to acquire what we can do. It really boils down to, is there a physical space where there's any amount of dwell time, some complexity to that space, with a decent amount of foot traffic, right? If you've got just those three things, that there's a conversation that could be had with those guests, those fans, those visitors while they're there, right? They're going to be spending time. They're going to be thinking about things, maybe weighing purchasing decisions, or just a significant amount of time that's being spent overall. That's all time that could be spent improving their awareness, improving their experience, and ultimately improving the opportunity they have to spend money, right, from a customer focused perspective. So that's really what we look for. There are other things, there's key verticals that we've seen particular success. I've called out a few of them, things like sports and entertainment, healthcare, retail, hospitality, amusement and attractions, things like museums, amusement parks, you name it. But also large public venues like convention centers, right? They all kind of fall into that category of they're large, there's complex, and people are typically spending a fair bit of time in those spaces as well. The rest are just really great sort of accentuators of those core profile demographics. So just a little bit in terms of where we see the most success and kind of a guide for some of the account strategy that we'd love to do with some of your teams. All right, and now to take us home with some of the ways that we see our partnerships. And really, I think the big thing for how we see what we do in our role, whether that's in a partnership capacity, a customer that ultimately is going to be able to deploy what we do, or an end user, I think it really comes back to the messaging I started with, right? We want to make sure that we're unlocking a lot of the key capabilities and the value that Alta Labs brings to market, right? So making sure that those really cutting edge, industry leading capabilities can be translated into individual end user experiences, right? So making sure that we can not only drive sort of engagement with the Wi-Fi, getting people on, but how can we make that a process that we learn about both parties and ultimately improve how they engage with the venue going forward? So really taking a clear focus on ROI that helps pay down, say, things like deployments of Alta Labs' fantastic technology, as well as, of course, our software deployment, but also making sure that we're able to engage additional stakeholders that maybe some typically IT-related conversations don't get access to. This is something that we've seen with partners that really have appreciated, they've typically integrated and worked with IT professionals, but they would love to be more connected with some of the business aspects of the organization, sort of the revenue focused aspects that as of yet haven't really engaged. But we're a great sort of conduit to that world, because although we do have a foot in the IT world and we do have some key deployment specs, we also know that we're capturing key data that's going to drive spend, right? We're going to have a clear ROI attached to what we do. So we're kind of a great bridge or gateway, if you will, to those additional stakeholders. So just some of the things that we always want to see in a win-win relationship with partners and suppliers. Perfect. And then as to how we see the particular partnership aspects here, I think the big word that comes up is flexibility, right? We know that working with channel partnerships for many years now, and it kind of being our bread and butter, it's not really a one-size-fits-all type of situation, especially realizing how we may fit as a SaaS product that layers on top of infrastructure. Sometimes there's a managed service component, sometimes there isn't. Sometimes we need to be folded into what other partners and installers do. That's why we want to be flexible, right? So we really have two key paths that we go down. One is what we call a referral partnership, which is very simply, let's work on some account strategy work at a high level. Let's identify some potential intros. If we can get an introduction, then we're really good at taking that sales process beginning to end, closing down, and then providing a finder's fee to those who are able to introduce us. The other is going to be more of a reseller network, which is a little bit more integrated, right? It's kind of a graduated version of that, where you're really an extension of Purple. We're mobilizing, teams that like that. We're equipping them with key collateral so that they feel comfortable having initial conversations. And we're really brought in only to quarterback where it makes sense, right? With more significant discounting off of MSRP for relationships like that. So just a very high level, but again, we find all sorts of different iterations of those two partnership, modalities in between. So we're always open to having those conversations. And really at the end of the day, we want to make sure we're a value add for you, for your customers, and ultimately to their end users. There should be a clear business case for each and every one of those stakeholder groups. And we're happy to kind of talk through how we build those and how we apply them. All right, that was an awful lot from me, guys. I appreciate the patience as I kind of wax poetic there, but that's it on my side. I'm happy to throw it over to the chat if anybody has any questions or would like to raise their hand.
Thanks, Michael. One of our partners in Slovenia, actually, Zan, he asked the question and said that he's interested in pricing. However, you'd like to address that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Zan, great question. The way that we do this is we want to keep this, again, very simple. This is kind of the way that we're built. We have really two core licenses. We have what we call our network license, which is really more focused on that highly configurable captive portal, but it's focused on a network analytics standpoint, right? So all the really neat things I talked about with demographics and behavioral marketing that can be unlocked through our platform, that's left out in the network license. You get all those in what we call our enterprise license. So it's enterprise class. It includes the full suite of everything we can do and everything that we saw here today, from a demographics and behavioral based marketing, automating your engagements through Wi-Fi, building sort of smart engagements that saves you manual work. Those are kind of the two different sides. And obviously you're going to be much cheaper on the network side versus the enterprise side. And the way that we do that from a model perspective is it's one license. So we work on an annual licensing model per access point or hardware type. So if you've got one Alta Lab access point that's deployed, you'll need either one network or one enterprise license here from Purple. From there, in terms of how we build our proposals, again, we want to keep this pretty straightforward and competitive. We've never lost on price for any conversation we've had if it's made sense to work with somebody. So I'll always add that caveat. But we also break down things like volume discounting, marketing support. So if you're willing to share in sort of the good word of what we've been able to do from an ROI perspective through press releases, case studies, you name it, we significantly mark off of our MSRP for those two network, those two license types. And that's really the core of what we do. Any additional bolt-on licenses, if you will, for things like content filtering, Alta Labs also offers, which we would defer to them on that. We could always kind of discuss separately, but yeah, happy to follow up and actually build out a more impactful proposal if you have a project in mind.
I'll also quickly just jump in on pricing for those of you that haven't tested out Alta Labs up to this point. If you go to our just our main website, alta.inc, there is a where to buy page. And if you click on that, it'll lead to our distribution partners, where you can reach out to one of our distributors to get pricing. But I will note that, especially for any of you that are like I said, haven't tried Alta for the first time, we do have like a demo pack, right? A starter pack, where we offer at a discount for new customers. So you can get 2 of our access points and an 8-port switch for a price of around $249 from one of our distributors. So you can reach out to them. Also, feel free to reach out to us directly for any help in connecting you with a distributor. Our email is just sales@alta.inc. We can post that in the chat as well. Any other questions that you feel free to post those in the chat for the next couple of minutes. We're also open to, if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question as well, that's fine as well.
Hey guys, sorry I was late. This is Sean with 21st. For those integrators that are in the Southeast, we cover your Alta Lab products for you. So definitely let us know. We stock heavy, and product's been very good for our integrators. So let us know if we can help out. Appreciate you guys inviting us.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah. I'll give you guys a few minutes here to post any questions in the chat before we wrap up.
While we wait on that, Dallin, I just want to, one thing I almost said at the outset is I don't know if we share the same brand marketing agencies, but it was striking as we see Alta Labs with the purple designs, and of course Purple with the purple design. So it does feel like a match made in marketing heaven.
Exactly. Yep. Rob, I think, has had a fun time with that. Rob, our VP of marketing, it's worked out very well.
Good to hear it.
Just want to make one comment. I was excited to see Michael describe their secure pass technology. That's something that we've been interested in recently certified for Passpoint compliance. We've recently joined the Wi-Fi Alliance and certified that with them. So that's another reason why we really have an amazing partnership here that should work really well together.
Yep.
It's a great point to make. Oh, sorry, Dom, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's right. I was just going to say it's more than just marketing. So it's a great partnership overall. Go for it though, Mike.
I was just going to second Jeff's point. I think it's a great thing to highlight because we obviously something that we're always following the market. We're always watching very closely what our customers are asking for, and this was something that had come up several times. So I think it's it's not just recreating what Passpoint can do, but really kind of being able to take that next step where you've sort of uncovered some of the data that's now available to you that maybe Passpoint doesn't make available. So it's kind of giving that same functionality, making sure it can ride, parallel to Passpoint functionality, but also giving you that added layer of Wi-Fi data and analytics that hopefully supercharges your tailored engagements in whatever channel you choose to leverage it. So definitely excited about that.
Well, awesome. Yeah, if there's not any other questions at this point, we really appreciate everyone's time. Again, taking time out of your schedules from wherever you are in the world. We're excited about this partnership between Alta Labs and Purple. feel free to reach out to us with any additional questions, right, at all. I posted our email at sales@alta.inc in the chat. And then lastly, I'll just note we did record this webinar, so we will share that on our YouTube channel. So make sure to follow us on YouTube and elsewhere, and we'll also make sure to email that recording out, right, and share it with everyone that's registered here for this event. So thanks again, everybody. Appreciate your time, and hope you have a good rest of your day. Take care.